Okay, so it's going to step through these two templates you've been given, maybe to make it a little bit clearer what's expected for the assignment. So I'll start with the BCA report, unless you want me to do the DCP LEP first. Which one? You want me to do the DCP first? DCP LEP first. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yep, no worries. Okay, so... Yes, I'm recording it. Yep, yep. Okay, so I'm just going to adjust this so that you can all see it on the projector and, again, in the recording. Unfortunately, we're just going to have a few extra things on the screen, but at least you can see it. So, okay, so this table, of course, has some summary, I suppose, outcomes from the LEP and the DCP. And I'm sure you all know what those two acronyms stand for by now. Exactly it, Local Environment Plan and Development Control Plan. Yep, good. So, okay, so firstly, do you know where to get those? Hopefully by now you've done that. But if you haven't, I'll maybe just very quickly point out the most obvious resource, which is the Sydney City Council website. And, oh, I'm just recording. Yeah, but you've turned it off already? Yeah. So, it's too hot.
So can they go on? Thank you.
So, yeah, look, they're going to send the technicians to look at it again because there's obviously something malfunctioning with the system. Yeah, we had them in yesterday with the thermostat and a temperature gauge. Oh yeah. So then it said 22 degrees and it was clearly 26 or 27 degrees. Yeah, leave the door open, definitely, yeah, because the aircon's off. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just doing a recording on the report because yeah, I wasn't sure if you. Yep. So okay, so again, make sure you have downloaded those two things, the DCP and the LEP. But I'm going to show you something because I don't think you were all shown that there is an easy way of getting these controls these days using the Department of Planning portal. So it's a great little service. And if you go here to find a property, then you can type in an address, so 61 to 63 Myrtle Street. And it brings it up and it tells you lots of things straight away. So you can see there RE1, expand this. So class 5 for the acid sulphate soils, local environment plan, it gives you a link to that. So it tells you the floor space ratio, all those things just come up really easily. But it's still really important that you get the full document. So you've got to get that local environment plan, which of course you can get from the council, but again, this just makes it a little bit easier. So it's the Department of Planning portal. Yep. And then just click on Find a Property. Yeah, it's a great little service. It's fairly new though, so not everyone uses it, but it's yeah, it's a good thing. Okay, so then going back to the document. Right, so we know the zoning now. So it's R1 or RE1, but well, I know it says RE1, but then when I looked it up, it was actually R1, which I think is the same as RE1, what it says there. Oh, right, so why is it saying... Oh, yeah, okay, oh, yeah, so that's where RE1, so it's giving us the wrong address. I don't know why. I'll just do that again. But yeah, it's R1, I'm pretty sure, because I searched for it with the map and it came up as R1. And, sorry? Yeah, it is the park, yeah. So let's just zoom out and we can probably pick on it. Yeah, here we are, that's right. Yeah, I'm fairly certain it's R1, but let's just double check. So there we are, RE, that's not it. Where's Neville Street?
The yellow box.
Isn't it right there?
Oh yeah, that's it, yeah. Oh, so yes, so there we are. So it's R1. Yeah. So you can see there quite clearly, R1. Don't know why it says RE1 over here, but it's, yeah, definitely R1. Oh yeah, there we are, it does say R1. Okay, so, yeah, I just saw the RE there. Yeah, that's it. So it's R1, definitely. Okay, so make sure you're looking up the controls for R1, and we've already gone through some of those anyway. And so again, R1, general residential, tells you what's permitted. And then going back to the portal, so height of building, 12 metres, floor space ratio, 1.5 to 1 it should be, yep, there we are. That's all those things. You can find all that if you go into the local environment plan, but because it's now mostly done through the legislation webpage, no one likes reading legislation, and going through all of this is a bit tedious, and sometimes you'll make mistakes because you won't know if you don't read the whole document. There are easy mistakes to make. So, okay, so then. So hopefully that's clear. So R1, so here we go. So 1.5 to 1, and so on. Now the ceiling height. So is that clear anyway? So the land zoning, FSR, we've done that. Also, it's a good thing to try looking it up on the map yourself. But again, you can make mistakes that way as well. So it's good to check the planning portal. And then the limitation on building height. So I don't know why the ceiling height would be there. So normally the heights of buildings in the LEP are based on the old envelope controls. So it should just be a height, not a ceiling height. Yeah. Yeah, maximum building height, definitely, not a ceiling height. Okay, so just put in the building height there. So that's the height to the, well in this case to the parapet. No. I mean, that's not the way the LEP is written, so go with what's in the LEP. Yeah, whatever the height is to the parapet. Yeah, it'll be about that. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but whatever you measure to the parapet. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah. So acid sulfate soils. Yes. Oh yeah. Yep. Just put it. You've got it. It's in the portal. Go class 5. Easy.
Beautiful.
Right. Easy.
And there's nothing we need to just say
So the to the parapet. Yeah, this is the height of the building for planning, not the. No, so that's so permissible. Sorry, is 12 metres, and then proposed. You would say the existing height is 12 metres. Oh, sorry, it's 14 metres, and no change is proposed. Yeah. So you would say the existing height is 14 point whatever metres, and that no change is proposed. And so then it does comply. Okay, so then for the DCP, it should be the same, the height. They're not going to have a height in the LEP that's different to the DCP. They will sometimes have a story limit, but that is, in Sydney City Council, that's on the zoning map. They have a height map, actually, that you could look up. Has anyone found the height maps? Right, yeah, there we are. Yeah. Yeah, and again, it's existing. So it doesn't really matter what it says is permissible because it's existing and you're not making any changes to the number of stories. Like you made it 4 stories. Well, then say that you've proposed 4 stories and it doesn't comply. So that's okay? Yeah. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to add a story in real life if you were submitting this. Council wouldn't allow that. Yeah, because they've got that height map. Well, there's a building stories map. You can apply. You can apply for. Yeah. You can apply for things that are outside of the controls, but then it's at the council's discretion. But you can. Yeah. Normally, if it's in the LEP though, they are pretty strict with that, and you've got to negotiate. Yeah. So they might be flexible there, but usually they're pretty strict. If it's in the LEP, not the DCP, but in the LEP, they're pretty strict. And actually, the stories part, well, yeah. Anyhow, it should all be the same. The stories and the height limit is from the LEP, and it should be the same as the DCP. Now, setbacks. I think most of you have found the setbacks. So just put what's allowed, but then again, your building is going to be over the setbacks already. There are no setbacks. So you're over that limit already, but just say it's existing and there's no change proposed. Oh, there would be general setbacks though that they, you'd have to look it up, but I have found them for Sydney City Council. Most of the inner city though, they will allow no side setbacks, but they definitely will specify front and rear setbacks. Definitely. No, you need to look up what the setbacks are in the DCP. Yeah. The setbacks. Yeah. It's in the DCP. Right. Yeah. So, I mean, so, yeah. And so it's the same with the E's. All those things. So it's just to force you to research the DCP and find those controls. You'll find them. Same with private open space. Now, the roof pitch, well, again, you're not making any change. So it's a good chance to look to see if there is a control for it. But, yeah, maybe, well, that's good. If you take it out, that's good. Yeah, and landscaped areas, so maybe take those things out, that's easy. And then the driveway too, because you're not making any change there. So that makes it much easier. Flood related, I think maybe that can go too. Car parking and absolutely, yeah. There is, but you're not making any change. It's not part of your proposal. Yeah, if you want to, but you could even just take it out, I think, because it's not part of the proposal. Yeah, I don't see why not.
And energy rating?
Yeah, just say to follow basics requirements. Basics. So we're going to do a basics report later, or basics, but do that then. So you could say to be provided. That's it. So I know planning documents can be tricky. It might take a few goes to get used to sourcing that information, but it is just that. You're sourcing information from those documents. So the BCA maybe is the one that's a bit more tricky, and so we can get into that. So, the lot and DP numbers, I think, do come up in the portal, which would make it really easy if they do. If they don't, I don't want to lift them up, but I don't think we really need them anyway. Okay, so how would you get the lot and DP numbers if they aren't in the portal? I thought they could have been. Oh, yes, they are. There they are. I'm blind. They are. Okay, so these days, easy. Get it from the portal. But if you were not to get it from the portal, where do you think you might get the lot and DP numbers?
It's on the Moodle.
They've all
this
gone
stuff
through
is
this,
on the
yeah,
Moodle, guys. There's a whole bunch of stuff I put up. I went through it last week and the week before. Really, then you're doing this thing out, I'm really disappointed. Really totally disappointed in many of you. I can't express that anymore.
Yeah.
Have a look on the Moodle. There is also the resource that I gave you last week or the week before to look the DP up, which we actually did in class. So a number of you did look at that research portal. It's also a government portal, believe it or not.
Oh,
Anybody
so
got a hint? Anybody remembering what that was? Starts with S. I don't know if I had that. It's a three-letter word. Well, two words. First word is 3 letters long.
Is it the one?
Nobody's warmed up to it. Type 6.
and I've shown you this too.
Yeah, 6 map.
Yeah. So it's another great government service.
This is where you should be going back to these things again and again and again. Just because you've done it for one project, it repeats itself on every project.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it, and so I'll do that right now. But yeah, you should definitely have looked at that, and then but there's another one to think about, which you don't have here, but when you work on a real project, you will. What's the first drawing that you'll have commissioned for a project usually? Any of you have worked in an office? Survey, of course, right? So surveyors will give you that as well. You can actually look it up through Titles New South Wales as well. Yeah, lots of ways. It'll also be on the title, building title, lots of other places. Okay, so there we are. And, okay, so there we are. Now, it's not coming up. Where did you bring it up again? There's a thing for the property information. Where is it? Anyway, you can bring up, there's a little window that you can bring up that has all the property information. I don't know why it's not coming up. Should be. Could maybe use my screen. Anyhow, you definitely can get it. Don't know why it's not coming up. And yeah, normally it will. I think it's just, oh, here we go. Oh no, that's something else. Yeah. So normally a window comes up, but anyhow, you can get it from the portal as well. And yeah, so there we are. So the lot number is lot number 1, DP, 68194. I'll let you find that. You don't always have a section number. Okay, so don't worry if you don't have a section number. Okay, so then rising stories, hopefully that's not difficult. And
University can do all this. They all have notes that you shouldn't be helping them with this. They're degree students. They should be able to copy their own notes.
I know.
Seriously.
Yeah.
They've done it 3 times now in training and they're doing it 4 times. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
I even provided the textbook for them to modify.
I know, yeah. No, it's just, I thought, well, they've got to finish it. But yeah, I'll just very quickly maybe go, just to revise some of it. So,
guys, you should be yelling out the answers today.
yes, absolutely.
Look at your notes from the first week. You got all of these, and it was on the board last week. We actually wrote them up. So if you photograph the board, you should be able to yell out today exactly what
So what building classification? So what class were you thinking?
Class 2, class 5 and class 7A.
Class 7? Yeah, no, that's only a building that's a car park or part. No, it's not necessary if it's part of another class. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's fine. Class 5 and then possibly 6 if you think it might be still retail. No, it's not retail. Yeah, so just class 5 and 2. Yeah, that's fine. Yep. That's it. So I know some people were looking at retail for some reason, but yeah, otherwise class 5 and 2. And then effective height. Now this is one that I know can catch you out. So I'm happy to quickly look at this one because that's a bit confusing. So
Overall height approximately 15.
no, so that's the problem. Yeah, no. So that's why I think a lot of people have maybe not looked at the definition. Okay, so I'll open up the BCA, and it does take a few goes. Okay, so how do you find definitions in the BCA or NCC? Yeah, well, kind of, yeah. Go down. It's just not called the glossary, but that's the right idea. There's a section here, the Schedule 3, for definitions. So if you ever see a term that you're not sure of the meaning of, and it can even be something like height, right, the definition might be different to what you would assume height is. And the purpose of the height in this case is to show how far people have to travel down in the event of a fire. And so it's not the height of the building, it's the height to the highest floor. So here, effective height means the vertical distance between the floor of the lowest story, including blah, 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 and the floor of the topmost story. So it's floor to floor. Yeah, should be about 8 point something, not 12. Yeah. Okay, easy mistake to make. I've seen an architect I know who actually graduated first in the state. Didn't know that. Okay, so yeah, I won't put it in there, but you know. Type of construction, because I've seen a few people make mistakes when I've gone over theirs, and so we can quickly look at that one. So let's see, if you're thinking about the process, where do you look up type of construction? Yeah, that's good. Yeah, well, there you are, section C, you know. Yeah, section C, that's spot on. Fire resistance, and it's the first part, so C1. Right, so that should be the habit that you'll get into when you go through this process. You just go straight to that table. So what's the rise in stories? 3. So it's not the rise in stories. Where I think people are making a mistake is using the rise in stories of the class 2 part, which is the upper 2 stories, but you still count the rise in stories from the bottom, from the ground. Okay, so type A. But read through, because you'll see there are ways of getting a lower type of construction for class 2 in some cases, which is really interesting. So here, type C in some cases. See if you can do that. I'll give you a tip. You can't, but it's still good to know. Okay, so once you know the type of construction, then these other sections should be a lot clearer, because if you've been assuming type, well, some people even had type C, and then you would have put the wrong things in here and been going around in circles. So, okay, so back to section, and also just make sure it's clear the specification is different to the general sections, so the clauses. So here where it says C1.1, that's of course the table we just looked at. This is one thing that annoys me with the formatting of the BCA or NCC. The specifications aren't indexed that well, so you have to go down to the specification in the contents here and then scroll through to find the part you want. They're quite long, and it's a really good thing to read through, so try and read through. I know you won't have time to read through all of it now, but when you get time, if you can read through all of that, it will give you a much better understanding of fire safety and the way FRLs work and the other requirements for things like shafts. And then the part that is actually one of the most useful is this table. And that gives you the FRL requirements for different elements in a Type A construction. And again, because it's not indexed, right, so if you go over here, there may be, I know they fixed it up a bit with 2019. So this is table 3. Can you just go this way? I don't think you can. No, it just takes you to Type A, and then you've still got to scroll down. Oh, it's only a little bit to scroll down, so it's better. Yeah, but again, it's the key to finding that table. And again, I've worked with people who've designed, whole apartment buildings who couldn't find this table in the BCA. It used to be a bit harder. Okay, so that's hopefully going to make it a little bit clearer. So that's again the specification C11, not C11. So spec C11, not C11. So C1.11, performance of external walls. That's actually something I was going to ask Kylie. So Kylie, sorry Kylie, so this section on performance of external walls in fire, I was just wondering what you're expecting there.
They just have to identify what the FRL.
Oh, so spec C1, so not, because that's about other things. That section's a bit different. That's not on FRLs. It's on other things. So if we just go over it. Here we go. So it's all just general explanation, but there's no FRL things in there. So do you want them to do anything with that?
Oh, they could just identify what the FRL of the boundary wall should be.
Oh, okay, yeah, so C11. So yeah. Should we just take that section out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so so just take that row out. Yeah.
Well, they could just change that to reflect the boundary wall should be. They could just like
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But still read through it. It's good to know all of those things, and it does explain the way external walls need to behave, but again, it's not in the table format. So it's mostly, again, that table I just showed you, so make sure you can go to that table, find out what the FRLs are. And then, okay, so C2. Now this is another one where it might be a bit unclear because C2 is mostly about compartments, and that doesn't really apply to class 2. You need to have fire compartments, of course, but these areas you can see are for class 5 and class 9. Or 6, so in other words, class 5 to 9. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's no class 2 requirement for the maximum size of a fire compartment. So I think you could just... That's right. So for the bottom level, if you want to, you can put the area of the ground floor and show that fire compartment is under the requirements. It will be, because look how big they are. Look at those sizes. Do you have a rough idea how big 5,000 square metres is? It's bigger than this campus. Right? So your building is a long way under that requirement. So normally this is something you check. If it's a large building, you would always check this. But for smaller buildings like this, it's not that relevant. So if you're confused by that, hopefully, again, you can just put something for the ground floor. And for the class 2 part, again, it doesn't have a requirement for the size of fire compartments. Deliberately. Right? Because you're not going to have a 2,000 square metre unit. I don't think there would be one that size, or 8,000 square metres. You think there are any units that size on the planet? 8,000? Of course not. No way. One of the biggest projects I ever worked on was 2,000 square metres of floor. And that was huge. 2,000. Right? So 8,000 is massive. For type C, it can come into it for large buildings. But again, the reason it's, I suppose, in the report is you need to understand the process. Okay, so then open space and vehicular access. Have a look at it, but I don't think it really applies here. So I think you can just put not applies, not applicable. And then now, vertical separation of openings in external walls. That's something you need to look at. I don't think it's going to make a difference to you here. No. Exactly. That's right. So it's more with curtain walls, things like that it makes a difference. And then you've got those spandrels, but I don't think it matters here. So then separation of classifications in different stories. Do you think that applies? Absolutely. So that's the main one. Yes, don't worry about sprinklers. You're not going to need sprinklers. Sorry? The FRLs. Yeah, no, it's just it'll just say they need to be separated. So with a fire rated wall that has the fire rating of the higher type of construction. So it's not specifications. So it is again C 2.9. Okay, so again, so you're right, it is that table that you can go back to get the FRLs in the specification. So it's the higher type of construction. So as long as it's type A, that's fine. So, just to see how you've been thinking about separation of compartments generally, even if they're the same classification, there is a bit of a general principle there that's not in the BCA or the NCC that you should know about. And it's to do with the requirements for walls versus floors. Essentially, walls need to be non-combustible, and that means they essentially have to be masonry. As far as I know, you can't have timber-framed, fire-rated walls beyond a certain fire rating. You can get low fire ratings, but to get the higher fire ratings, you can't do that with timber, as far as I know, unless Kylie might know some tricks. So Kylie, do you know of any engineered timber wall systems that have the fire rating for... Yeah, does that... Oh yeah, CLT, but they can't do the shafts. I thought they still had to do the shafts with masonry. I'm pretty sure. Because I had a look on the CLT on the wood solutions, and they said that... yeah. So anyhow, if you look it up, you might find something different, but I did have a look on wood solutions pretty recently to see if there was any way of doing timber shafts, and they said that you can do the floors, but the walls still need to be masonry, and they haven't got a fire-rated timber solution. Hopefully in the future. Right. Yeah. Because I know they're all new products, and so because that one in the city, that Zahn did, I thought they did have concrete block walls around the shafts. For CLT. Oh, that's the one that's 8 story. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm curious about it because I want to do full timber buildings as tall as I can, but it's hard. So
The tallest one in the world's being built.
right. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, there was a really tall one in China, and then there's one in Melbourne that's a bit taller than the one here.
Yeah, that's the part.
Yeah.
So I think this one's only 5, the one in Melbourne's 8.
Oh, right, okay.
And I think the one overseas is 24.
Wow, right.
So
Yeah. So all of those, if you're interested in that sort of building, CLT is definitely the one to look at. Yeah, and CLT is quite fire resistant. Do you all know what CLT is? It's cross-laminated timber.
I think everyone needs to probably just get out this information.
Oh yeah. No, we have. Yeah, we'll have another boat chat after this. Yeah. So I know it's crazy. It's been going on. So okay. So anyhow, if you're interested in CLT, cross-laminated timber, go to the Wood Solutions website. You'll find plenty of information on it there. The one I prefer is cassettes, which are prefabricated systems for building, which are still timber, and I think they make more sense in most cases. But CLT is a good thing too. So anyhow, have a look at that. But again, make sure you realise the walls, if they need a high fire rating, generally can't be timber. But the floors can. And that's a really interesting thing. They just don't need to be rated as highly. Floors, yeah. I think it's because the shaft, if they say the shaft's fully enclosed with masonry, then the fire's not going to penetrate it, even if the floors are timber. Yeah. So that's it. And then, so you've got your separations. Now, protection of openings, this one's a bit more tedious to go through. You probably don't want to go through all of it. So you're happy to read through those clauses. You should just need to look up each of them that are listed. I think these, because there's no specifications there, that should be a bit easier. So, well, maybe I'll just point out a couple of things. Openings in fire isolated exits. What's your fire isolated exit? The staircase. Yeah. So what are the openings in the fire isolated exit? Yeah, the doors to your apartments.
Oh wait, what?
Yeah, the doors to your apartments are openings in a fire isolated exit. That exit needs to be fire isolated. So in other words, it can't just be a non-fire rated staircase. Yeah, that's got to be a fire resisting shaft.
But it's just that the door for the staircase.
The door from the apartment into the stairs, into the shaft. Yes, that's right, exactly.
So
That's
mine
the point.
like to stand along the staircase. You
Yeah.
exit the staircase and you open, right? And then the doors are
Yeah, so then in your case, that whole open area is the fire resisting shaft. And the door from the apartment still needs to meet the requirements. No, God no.
But my whole building is like what?
You've got to change it to
Even
a
if,
fire
like,
rated.
the actual stair has its isolated fire.
Oh, if the stair's got a shaft and then there's a door, yeah, that's okay. Well, that could be okay. Yeah. Still check, but yeah, that probably is okay. You've got to go through that section, and okay, so it's C 3.8. Okay, so all of those things. So they've got to be fire doors, pretty much. Automatic closes.
Okay, and what do we? Is that
It says it has to be a fire door, self-closing or automatic closing.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
and
So in
is
other
that-
words, it's got to have a closer.
Is that in the status or in the conversation?
You put the requirements.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe summarise it, but yeah, put all the things that apply. That's right. In the so status you could say complies, and then in the comments put the requirements. Yeah, and say, but only if you're satisfying those requirements. Yeah. You can't. Yeah, you can't have sliding doors for entry. Yeah, and look, in some cases they need to open in the path of egress, but not in this case. So you make sure, well, have a go at finding the requirement for that, because it's a bit of a tricky one, but you'll see, because a lot of people who don't know just make all the doors open in the direction of travel. So they'd say this door here that goes out into the corridor would need to open out, which would be crazy. But people do it. I've seen people go and retrofit buildings and change the way all the doors go because they think they all need to open out in the direction towards the fire stand. But they don't. So read through section C3. Yeah, they should, of course. Always. I mean, look, I've done a 25-storey apartment building and all the doors still open into the apartment. They don't open out. But people make a mistake and think they all have to open the other way. Because it does say in some cases they do, but not in all cases. So it's good information. You know, you should be reading this. I think it's actually interesting if you want to be designing buildings. Yeah. Once it's meaningful though, then
It makes such difference.
yeah, that's right. It takes a few goes, and but then as you start to see how it does actually affect the design, then it becomes more meaningful. So that's good. Okay, so we're nearly there. Okay, so openings in floors or services. Floor services, sorry. So we've been looking at the drainage services, right? So that is going to apply again to your own designs. And I'm going to look at this because I haven't read it for a while. So Okay, so any of you who have risers for your bathrooms that connect to a story above the one that you're documenting, you need to have a shaft that complies with the requirement that you can see there, specification C1.1. So again, that's that table I showed you earlier. So that's why I was suggesting that some of you have a fully framed wall around your riser rather than trying to put the pipes inside the wall frame.
What about like how I outlined, I ended up making that wall bigger?
Yeah, that's better. That's better because then it's easier to get the fire rating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really important in multi-storey buildings. It's a huge problem when people don't plan out the risers and you get really complicated things happening, and then, you know, because it's hard to work on, you get leaks, and then that creates huge issues for people. I'm going through one right now where the tenant, not the tenant, but the, basically it's the tenant's fault, on the unit above us, has caused massive leaks because they couldn't work effectively on the ducts for their plumbing. And again, it's all just poor design. And and then same opening for service installation is very similar. So C315. So read through that. Here it starts to get into engineering, which you shouldn't need to look at, but you still should read it. When they tell you about testing things, you're not going to go out and start going with a blowtorch and burning different building materials to see if they're combustible or not. It's one of the just insane things about building compliance in Australia that I think a lot of inexpert people get involved and then put all the responsibility onto other people. Yeah. Hi, how are you? Oh, for the air conditioning? Oh, brilliant. Excellent. Excellent. Cheers. Great. Thanks a lot. Excellent. Cheers. Yeah. Maybe, yeah. No. Still just put a note. Yeah, put the requirements. And you can just copy and paste, maybe try and summarise it a little bit. But yeah, definitely put the requirements. But just for your own interest, like I keep suggesting to people, see if you can find out what the definition for combustible is, because that term pops up all the time in the BCA, or actually calling it that, NCC. Have a look at the definition. What does combustible mean? Right, it doesn't just mean what it means in English. What does combustible mean in English? It burns. Now, what burns and what doesn't burn? Everything burns. At the end of the day, if it's in the sun, it's going to burn. So everything burns. It's just at what temperature does it burn? So, unfortunately, again, they don't tell you. They tell you go to this standard. Yep, sure. Yes. Yes. Okay. Well then, maybe put not applicable. Yeah, I'm happy with. I don't mind. As long as you've had a go at looking it up. Yeah, I know. So that's annoying. Yeah, because most of the council do have it. But anyhow, that's all you can do. Yeah. Anyhow, but yeah. So just out of interest, if you want to look up what is combustible, have a look at this standard. I've been reading it for some light reading over the last few months, and see what they say. But don't expect to get much useful information about it because it's written by, engineers who expect you to go out and get a blowtorch and test things that you're planning on using in your building. Yeah, well, maybe you would, but then I've seen people do these things. Again, always engineers. It's just not practical, really, and you shouldn't have to do it. Building materials that are being supplied by a supplier should come with a fire rating. It's pretty simple, and they always used to. It's only in the last 20 years that this hasn't happened, because again, you get people who just don't have enough experience. Okay, so that's it. So any other questions? Yes, yep.
Services due to change of use. Do we
Yes.
show a plan of both floors and put how the pipe piping is going to go up through.
No, just describe it in words.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it might be good
Yep,
to choose
yep.
an image.
Yeah, if you want to put images to explain it,
label it.
absolutely fine. Yep.
And what do we include in there? Water pipes,
Yep.
fuse boxes.
Yeah, mostly drainage pipes, water
We
supply.
did this one.
No, but for the whole building.
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry, drainage pipes.
Yeah, so you're going to have a riser that will go through the ground floor. If you have electrical, it shouldn't be too many huge issues. You can
My
just
water
point
will
out.
be, at one point there will be like a bulkhead of where water's got to like go. I think.
Maybe, but probably not. If you can have the riser go straight down, that's a better way. Go and then take the riser through the ground floor.
From level 2.
Yeah.
I'll play with that.
Because we don't care about what's happening on the ground floor. So why not just take your risers through the ground floor? It's a lot simpler.
Got water there,
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
kitchen and bathroom.
Yeah, so that room's on the ground floor as well, so just take the riser through the ground floor.
So that's what we have to say.
Yeah.
But then there's
So that will
also
have
one there.
implications for the ground floor and just say that. Yeah.
So another
Yeah,
one. So
yeah. Take it through the ground floor.
water risers,
Yeah.
and that will somehow go across to that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And go to the slab. Yep.
Okay, so that will just affect the ceiling there,
Yeah.
and that'll be fine.
Yep.
And then fuse box.
Yeah, so just say each unit will have its own switchboard,
Fuse box.
and then
in the private open space. In
uh,
the communal, sorry.
yes,
the
yeah,
area.
yeah. It's not going to affect the ground
And
floor much
those
anyway.
private open space too, right? Like balconies are.
Yes, yes, yep.
And
And then, but the other thing
another
that could
riser
affect
there
it is
and
that
there.
if you go for a ducted air conditioning system,
Yeah.
then you may need a plant room on the ground floor.
For the sake of this report,
I would do that.
we
Unless you want to go for, if you have split systems, then you'll have to have the compressors outside the building
By the back.
or on the facade,
So for
which
the
is harder than just putting a plant room on the ground floor.
plant room on the
Yeah.
ground floor
You wouldn't normally do it because it's more expensive than split systems, but you don't care about the cost.
to help aircon.
Yeah. Yeah, it's much better. See, this is what happens when you get split systems, this horrible thing we've got.
Yeah.
Right? So ducted is better, and then you can have zones. It's better in every way. Environmentally, it's better.
So plant room would mean the aircon is ducted.
Yeah,
Is that what you mean?
yeah. Water cooled. Yeah, with air handling units on each level.
What about the vertical and horizontal services?
Well, that's it. They're most of the services. So HVAC, so air conditioning, essentially. Plumbing and electrical.
So we just have to look at them verbally, saying where they are.
Yeah. Yeah. And how it's going to affect
Then
the
we'll show the water
ground floor, essentially. Yeah, that's right.
So it's just how they will affect the ground.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because my services
Or and the other
are
parts
pretty
of the
much-
building.
Yeah. My services are at the back of the building, most of them. Also have bathrooms and kitchens at the back of the building.
Yep.
So the rise would go from
Sure.
ground floor to
Yep. No problem. Yep.
against the wall and
Yeah.
not.
We don't know where the sewer line is, so we just assume that it can connect to the sewer on the ground level somehow.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it.
And implications on existing and proposed structure.
Yep.
Does that mean that, because I've got glass walls going through 2 stories, like, so obviously they stop at the full level, but that's
Yeah.
their report. So do I
Yeah.
have to say?
Well, look, if you're going to have concrete floors, then that's a really simple solution. It's terrible for the environment, but we don't care. For this, we'll just say concrete makes it easy because then you can have the fire separation between the ground floor and the upper levels, and that solves it. And it's a simple structure. I mean, it's not simple to build, but it's simple to draw, and it's less
Fire
work to
separation.
document.
So then, because I didn't put about anything about concrete floors in the table.
You didn't.
No.
Oh. So what did you say your floors were? If they're timber, you'd have to fire rate them.
The floors, mine are concrete, but
Yeah, concrete's simple. And easier to draw. It's easier in every way except when you go to build it, because getting concrete into a building like this is painful.
In here, when I put general floor area limitation, I'm just going to allow blah blah blah, then I'll put the concrete floor.
Yeah. And actually, it is already concrete, so you could just say, if you're going to reuse the existing structure,
For my one, I take out 2 windows from this front part here.
Yep.
So it would be kind of like the only change I had to make to.
yeah, just mention it, yeah. That's fine. Yeah, so yeah, it's fine. Yep. Yes, and now, so what you need to check there with those open spaces is that you've got the fire separation between the compartments in those open areas too. So where's the open space there? Yeah, okay, so these are they different units?
No, that's all one.
All one unit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so they go in there and
That's
then
the front door, yeah.
go through the open space.
Yeah.
Is there a unit above this? Oh, so what's above? So this is the upper level.
Level 2, yeah.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's no open space on this level?
That's like you come out the stairwell into.
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
okay.
No, there's not.
Yeah, so this is open space that's
Yeah, the
common.
courtyards are sorry, yeah.
Yeah, that's okay.
Both courtyards are.
They're common. Oh, they're private.
Well, that is all one house. For this, like, co-living.
Oh, okay.
And so
I
that's
see.
their private open space.
You got a problem there. So this courtyard, it carries through to the upper level.
Yeah.
So you need to have that separation. You can do it, but it needs to have the separation because this is a different unit.
When you say separation,
So you need to have just check it. It's in the protection of openings. Yeah. So section.
so can that be a glass wall with wooden paneling going along?
It needs to have a certain distance of solid material from the.
Because that's someone else's house.
Yeah. The simple solution is just to make it solid all the way there. Simple.
And the light
Otherwise.
from that's open there, so they get light.
No. This is the upper level, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so-
it's open to the ceiling.
Yeah, but this is all solid around here.
That's wall and that's glass.
So it's just, but see, it's only if you want these to be windows, you've got a problem.
Yeah, that's what it is. I can change it.
Yeah. I mean, the simple way would just make it more solid. Otherwise, you can have windows, but you need a vertical separation between the unit below and the unit above.
Okay. So it can be like glass from like a certain.
Yeah, just check up. Yeah, I think it's 450 or whatever. It's the height. It's not that high.
Yeah, well, I'll do that so they still get the light. Because the whole point is that the light comes through to there.
I mean,
I've already
in
read
reality,
about that being really
well,
sustainable.
privacy would be a problem as well. Right?
Yeah.
Because they can look down from this unit into there. So I'd be making them 1800 high, so they at least get light above that height, but they can't look down into the courtyard of the unit below. Yeah, then it solves it. Because it's very difficult to have fire-rated windows. People say, oh, we'll just make them fire-rated windows. Well, look it up and see if you can find a fire-rated window. Yeah.
With my one,
Yep.
so this is my co-living apartment here.
Yep.
I'm doing this one over here. Like in cabins, I'm using this one over here. But this part here, it's an open space with the two doors above, but it's empty for the first floor and the second floor. So and it's all completely closed off. Is that okay?
It should be.
Fire rate between each level.
Yeah, as long as you've got the separation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Sure.